is our first budget together, and we wanted to make sure it was a budget of sound financial management, something that promoted our natural competitive advantage, something that provided services, provided infrastructure, provided opportunities for our community. When I'm looking at our first budget together as a council, I think the key plank in our first budget is securing Melbourne's future. And there are some pretty tough decisions in this budget which I'll outline to you during the course of this presentation. And you will also see, of course, that we have done that forward thinking to look forward 4 years of the term of this council, to look at what Melbourne might look like at the end of our term. First, could I commend all of the councillors who worked with us on this budget. Over the term of this council, we will spend $1.55 billion in programs and services. That's an increase of $200 million compared to the last council term, and that's an historic amount for us to spend on program and services. And what we've tried to do is invest in the future, as you'll see if you look at that 4-year plan. We'll spend $350 million over the next 4 years on infrastructure, on key investments in our city's future. And it comes on top of the highest investment in the city's history in infrastructure over the last 4 years. We're projecting very modest surpluses over the forward estimates. Over the last 4 years, we were able to make $46 million worth of savings, which we put back into infrastructure. Now, you often hear state and federal governments talking about how they will generate surpluses and return to infrastructure. Well, we can actually demonstrate to you, as you know, how we did that over the last 4 years. This budget, of course, has no debt and there are no borrowings. One of the things that we wanted to do that's very important to us is to maintain the livability of the city. And we'll spend $364.3 million on our programs and services. There's around $50 million for programs and services for youth, the aged, children, families, services for people with disabilities, on community and health programs, and on sport and recreation programs. We'll invest $14 million in arts and culture programs to strengthen our reputation as Australia's premier arts capital. We also run major events. There are 4 major events in which we are the sole investor. New Year's Eve, Moomba, Melbourne Spring Fashion Week, Melbourne Music Week. We spend around $9 million on those 4 premier festivals alone. But of course, we also measure the economic uplift of those festivals. And the measured uplift is $53 million to our city's economy for that expenditure of about 9. If you look at our total investment in events, tourism, promotion of the city, city business support, that's $44.4 million overall. We will plant 30,000 trees over the next 10 years at 3,000 a year. That'll double the number of trees in our city. We're completing the water harvesting projects. We've got big ones in Fitzroy Gardens, in Birrarung Mar, in Queen Victoria Gardens. We're introducing a solar panel bulk buy scheme for residents, and we will work with businesses and institutions on ways that they can purchase the technology. But during the course of that expenditure, we would also like to see Melbourne become one of the world's leaders in advanced solar panel technology. We're spending $1.5 million on flood mitigation across the municipality. If you were to say to me, what's the biggest challenge that you face as a city? It is this. It is planning for our growth. We're renewing our streets. We're very proud of the beauty of Melbourne and the way it looks, but you can't just let it run down. You have to invest in it like you do in any built form. So we are investing in renewing those streets to reflect the way people live and the way they use the city. I said earlier we made some tough choices in the budget, and we did. It's not easy, whether it's city, other municipality, state, federal, we're all facing pretty tough choices. We've dealt with some structural problems and some cyclical challenges. Some were foreseen and some were not. And our revenues overall are down. And I wouldn't want to pretend otherwise. We drew down from our reserves $9 million to cover the shortfall in the defined benefit superannuation scheme. There's a $10.5 million shortfall in parking revenue, basically caused by compliance. People are following the rules, so our projected fines did not reach what we thought we were going to get when I was speaking to you at this time last year. And we're down about $3.7 million in revenue because of reduced interest rates, because our cash balances have been lower during the year. If we look forward, we've got some sort of mixed economic signals. We forecast 5,300 residential units when we were looking at building activity a year ago. The answer will be 3,800 residential units in 2014. It's still a large number, but of course it's slowing a little. Very fast growing municipality, but not as quickly as we thought we were growing maybe 2 2 years ago, and that has an obvious impact on our rates. Office completions are about the same quantum, but they've been somewhat delayed, somewhat slowed down, and therefore our projected rate revenues are down on our earlier forecasts. At the same time, we've had upward pressure on expenditure. We are the fastest growing capital city in Australia, but we want to make sure, and that was the rigour and the discipline of this budget, that we didn't let growth in expenditure run away from available revenue. And that's the trick, isn't it, to getting those modest but important surpluses and not borrowing. One thing I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on, because I said before, we don't expect those large savings that we made, the 46 million that we made over the last 4 years. You know, that they finished up in our surpluses. But in this budget, I can point you to about $10 million where there has been really fine-grained work to make savings throughout the entirety of the organisation out. We've kept the rate rise to 3.75%, and that will be among the lowest in Victoria. Of about 40 or 42 councils that I know of that have announced their rates, there are only 4 that are below 4%. We're going to increase parking fees in the CBD. I won't resile from that. It is my intention, as I did last time, to raise it once and once only in a term. No one likes it. But with the few revenue levers we have, you've got to look at it if you want to meet your budget. So parking fees will increase by $1.50 inside the CBD, which takes it to $5.50 an hour. Still well below Sydney, but I understand people don't like those rises in parking rates. The rises outside the municipality of CBD will be much more modest, between 20 cents and 80 cents. This year we'll spend $96 million on infrastructure, significant infrastructure. And these investments are powerful signals about confidence in our city, about enhancing our infrastructure, about providing for our community, and it is that reinvestment in our city that I think is very important. We're investing $12.4 million in Docklands, for the Library and Community Centre, for the Boating and Family Services Hub, for the Docklands Community and Place Plan, refurbishment works on the Wolves and Marina and at New Quay and Waterfront City. We're investing $15.3 million in Carlton and Parkville, Kathleen Sideline, and $1.8 million in Kensington and North Melbourne. Now basically that's advanced design work for what will be very big infrastructure projects in the city's near future.